Welcome everybody. This is the LEP meeting. Today is July 29th, 10 o'clock. Sorry we're a little late, and we're here to start the meeting. I guess the first call to order is, approve last meetings, the minutes from last meeting, I'm sorry, the minutes from the last meeting, correct?
Correct.
Let me just.
So I'm not sure whether Heather sent those out. I know they are on the committee's webpage, so I don't know if folks have had an opportunity to review them. If not, we could give everybody a minute or so to read those.
Has everybody had an opportunity to look at them?
I have
Yes.
not. I'm looking at them now.
Okay.
I'm looking at them now as well.
All right. So, all right. Let me see. Brittany's here, right? Kaplan.
Yes.
Brendan's here. Troy's here. Yes. Daisy's here. Rich is here. Viviana's here. Alejandra's here, and Michelle Faca's here, right? Is everybody else? I mean, that's the meeting, right? Okay.
Yes.
So, wonderful. So now, did everybody have a chance to now look at the meetings from last time? Are there any questions about the meetings, about the minutes?
No.
No.
I don't see any questions. Anybody want to approve those minutes? Okay, Brandon votes to approve. I'm sorry? Okay. That's
Second.
a move. Great. Any discussion? Having none, so we'll approve the meeting. Minutes from the March 25th, 2024 meeting. All right, next thing, training. Rich and Alejandra sent out this wonderful outline for the LEP training for judges in their email to us. Has everybody had an opportunity to look at them? Yeah, so that's, I guess, a yes.
Yes.
Let's see this. Rich, you want to discuss this meeting, the training?
Yes. Sure, Judge. Thank you. So what Allie and I did was we reviewed all of the trainings that we've done, whether it was the different versions of the staff training, the training that is for the LEP contracted providers, and then different trainings that we have in the past provided to the judges, whether it was at CJI many years ago, the divisional meetings that we did a handful of years ago, the new judge training. So we kind of looked at all of those various trainings and pulled from it what we thought should be in a online training for judges. And that's kind of what this outline lays out. We kind of really wanted to focus on the things that were going to be most important to the judges, while also keeping it at a reasonable time frame. You know, I'm hoping that it'll be a 30 to 45 minute tops online training for them. which is similar to what we did on the ADA side, which worked out well. So that's kind of what we were thinking. So this just lays out the general topics and subtopics that we wanted to cover, where they should all have some familiarity, because all of the judges have gone through some training at different points, whether it was, like I said, the CJI training, the divisional meetings, or the new judge training. So that's kind of what this lays out. So we just wanted to see if anybody else had additional thoughts on things that should be added, things that should be taken away. And then once we're in agreement, what I would propose to do is to send this to Judge Basuto and Judge Faceto to make sure they're okay with it. And then once they're okay with it, then we'll actually start working on drafting the PowerPoint slides. Daisy?
Thank you. Good morning. It might be covered, but it's not explicitly written in the outline. I do wonder if, even if it's just a quick blurb, to let judges know that if they are referring to a judicial branch contracted programs, they are also have access to interpreters as well.
Okay, yeah, so we would cover that under the federal mandate piece, but so that will definitely be explicit in it.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Rich, from a judge's perspective, there are a couple of things I just want to highlight that I think are really very important. First
Sure.
of all, I think it's really important to distinguish, or at least, I guess, educate some of the judges in the distinction between interpreting and translation. I think that distinction is sometimes lost. So I think during the training, in creation of this outline, I think that's an important point to really stress. I think another point that's really important to stress is the maximizing of resources. When you're in a business GA or any other court, and you're looking for an interpreter, we really forget that there are interpreters doing work in other courts or in other courtrooms. So, I mean, we really can't hold them up, or at least, not be very efficient with their time. I mean, it's easy to forget when you're trying to move your own docket that these people have a lot of the work to do and not necessarily in that particular courtroom. So, stressing patience, I guess, it's a virtue.
Yes, that is Allie's uphill battle all the time. Having to deal with that. Yes, Judge.
Yeah.
Yes, and it applies to both in-person and remote assignments. So it will be really helpful to emphasize that point. Thank you, Judge.
Yeah. All right.
Rich,
Anybody else? Go ahead.
Yes, Your Honor. So a quick question regarding the training here that you have for judges. How does this correspond with the training that we have for staff? Is it very similar, or are you adding factors to the judge that perhaps staff wouldn't see and might be beneficial?
It's similar, and there are differences. So like the refresher training for staff does not go into all of the legal stuff. There's a little bit more on the initial training regarding the LEP staff training on the legal reasons why we do all of this stuff. The refresher doesn't. The refresher was really geared towards kind of the nuts and bolts of what services we provide, how we get those services to the courts. Where this one, it will go into a little bit more in depth on the legal piece of it. And that's what we do when we have the new judge training, kind of doing a little bit of case law and that kind of stuff. So there's things like that. This will also go into a bit more to like what Judge Suarez was saying regarding ways of, with the judge more controlling the courtroom as opposed to the clerks, a lot of how best for the judges to control, interpreter cases, things like hearing the interpreter cases first, and things like that, where it's touched upon in the staff training, but it probably is not hammered home as much as it will be in this one.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. I think, Troy, did you have your hand up first and now it's down?
Yeah, my question was very similar to Brandon. I think you responded in the answer. I just want to know what was the difference between the two trainings. That was it.
Oh, very good.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Michelle?
Hi. So my question is about whether or not this covers, some kind of methodology for evidence that's in another language. I know that there's one of the topics is asking interpreters to perform translations, but it would be helpful if there was kind of some kind of uniform best practices for dealing with evidence in other languages.
That is a very good point, which is not explicit. We kind of talk about it a little we don't talk about it, actually. I wasn't even thinking about that, honestly, in the training. It's covered in a little bit in the memos that will be attached to the training from Judge Carroll. But I think that's a good point, Michelle, because we do have some issues with that regarding evidence. So we'll definitely look to add that to it.
And if there's any way for us, I don't know if there's a spot on the LEP page so that attorneys and pro se parties also kind of understand that procedure as well, because I don't know if the memos from Judge Carroll would be something that would be on the judicial
Correct.
website.
Yeah, those are just on the judge's internal site. So that is that's something we could definitely look to do on some of those questions that we have on the LEP homepage.
Thanks.
Michelle, can I just ask a question for clarification? Do you mean situations where there is an exhibit that's in a foreign language, for example, that needs to be translated into English so that the court and it becomes part of the record? Is that what you mean?
Yes. So I know that there are different practices state to state. Sometimes in other states, you have to actually hire one of the judicial branch interpreters to translate and certify, which obviously is very costly. And I guess what the requirements would be so that that is an admissible translation or it's an acceptable translation. And
right.
To what extent, there's, you could have a whole, for instance, you get a bank statement and, does every word on that page need to be translated, and who, and who's qualified to do that, I guess.
Yeah, no, it's a very good point, a very good issue. It's a difficult issue for us because, we don't do those translations. It really is on the party bringing it to have that translation done. This issue actually came up in Waterbury not too long ago, and it's unfortunate that we don't have the resources and the ability to be able to translate those documents that are being put in as evidence. But to make sure everybody's aware of that is important. So that's a very good point.
Thanks.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay. Any other discussion on the outline? Well, it looks good to me. And thank you for putting it together. I think it's great. I think a refresher for judges is always a good idea. I think judges tend to be very concerned about their own individual dockets and moving that docket. And I think they need to be reminded that, you can't always move it at your own pace. So that's a good thing. Great. All right. Next on the list is the VRI and advisement of rights updates. Rich?
Sure. I'll take that, Judge. Thank you.
Okay.
So we continue to be moving along with the rollout of the video remote interpreting project. I've said previously, we've rolled it out to all of the arraignment courtrooms, family support magistrate, housing, and juvenile courts. We are currently in the process of rolling it out to the civil and family courts. So it's going to be each clerk's office has identified the primary courtroom where family cases are heard and where civil cases are heard. And those are in the process of being retrofitted to do VRI cases. The expectation is those will be rolled out completely by the end of August. Because we've done so many trainings already in the courthouses, the expectation is that we won't have to go out and do additional training because it'll kind of be now at the point of a train the trainer situation, so that once they are installed, they're not going to have to wait for us to then set up a training to go out and do that. We'll be able to almost simultaneously, almost upon installation, be able to go live with it. So I think that'll be great. So once we're done with that rollout, we'll have about a little over 100 carts in the field that are equipped to do VRI cases. We'll have about 15 carts left over still to be installed. And what we're going to do is kind of wait a little bit just to see whether it's best to put those in additional criminal courts, because right now it's just the arraignment courts that have them and the criminal trial courts don't have them, or whether to put them into other additional civil family cases, civil family courts, sorry. So that's kind of where we are with that. We did, at Judge Bizzuto's suggestion, sent out a survey to the judges that have utilized the service, the clerks that utilize the service, and we've also had business cards printed up for attorneys for them to take the survey. To date, we've received roughly about 50 responses to that survey. All of them were, generally speaking, were all positive. I think the negatives really are unfamiliarity with the system, where I think people may have the biggest misunderstanding, I think, is people are expecting that this system allows you to get interpreters on demand. But as Judge Suarez mentioned, given our resources, interpreters are not just sitting at the other end of this VRI and waiting for a courtroom to call them. We only have, less than 25 interpreters that are capable of utilizing this, because it is only our staff interpreters, and a good portion of those are still doing in-person events. So on a given day, it may only be between 3 and 7 interpreters that are available to do this remotely. So while the system is terrific in what it does, and it does expedite things a lot by making things simultaneous, it did not get rid of the underlying staffing issue that still does exist. While this helps it did not alleviate it completely. So I think that's the biggest negative that's shown in the surveys, is that people really, I think, are under the misunderstanding that services are always available on demand, when that's just not the case. Mm-hmm. But from a technological standpoint and providing the services, separate from that, all of them have been very positive. So we are happy about that. I don't know if Michelle, if you've had the opportunity yet to. I know it hasn't really been rolled out in family. I know I don't think either of the family courtrooms in Waterbury are equipped yet. So you might not have had the opportunity yet to.
I feel like I did once, and I don't know exactly how that came to be, and I didn't have any issues. I mean, my question was, I think I had spoken before the meeting started about what happens when you have, it's an in-person hearing and you do have one of the people that's going to be testifying is also remote. Is there the capability to handle that with the VRI?
So Allie, you're on mute. I'll let you take that.
Yeah, the VRI is at this point only available to staff interpreters. So, and when the interpreter is the only person appearing remotely. If someone else is appearing remotely, it's going to be a regular hearing with consecutive interpreting, so more people can participate remotely. But
So
if there is an ability, if like for their Arabic interpreter, when the witnesses were remote, the Arabic interpreter has the ability to also appear remotely.
Okay. Oh, okay. So that helps.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so there's two different types of kind of virtual interpreting. It's the VRI system with our staff, which allows for simultaneous interpreting, occurs when everybody's in the courtroom other than the interpreter.
Okay.
And then we could use the same equipment, but when you have multiple people that are remote, then everything is done consecutively. So you still can use you'll still have the team set up with the monitor and all of that, but instead of the simultaneous interpreting with the headsets, it's just the consecutive mode, which is better than the Polycom phones, but it's not as good as the virtual remote interpreting system. It's kind of the middle ground.
Got it. No, but it still sounds great. Thank you.
Of course. So that's where we are on VRI. Regarding the advisement of rights, I believe I mentioned at the last meeting of re-rolling it out to family support magistrate cases. So one of the first initiatives of this committee, prior to my involvement with it, was recording the family support magistrate advisement of rights onto a CD. We ended up purchasing CD players and monitors for all of the FSM courtrooms back in 2012, 2013, and rolling that out so that after the magistrate did the advisement in English, there's a blurb that's played asking anybody to raise their hand if they need it in Spanish, and then the appropriate advisements would then be played in Spanish. When doing the training for the VRI, a handful of the clerks have asked us if we can move that system to a system that we did with the criminal advisement of rights and the housing notices, in which we did the recording of the advisement with Mike's help, who's on the line with us. Mike actually did all the recordings for us, and then we sent those over to IT, and IT would push those out onto the clerk's computers. We purchased speakers so that the same system would happen, that once the magistrate gave the advisement in English, the clerk would click on their computer to play it in Spanish. So this system is a lot more user-friendly than what the clerks have had to deal with in rolling in the carts and dealing with the CD players. So we are just waiting on, as of a meeting I had on Friday, I think there are 3 or 4 computers that ITD is having some issues with, of pushing those advisements out. As soon as those are resolved, notice will get sent out to all of the clerks to launch that process. So my hope is sometime this week, if not this week, next week, that will be launched. So all of the family support magistrate advisements will then be similar to the criminal advisements and the housing notices, utilizing the clerk's desktops to play those notices, which I think is a lot better for everybody than what we've been using, especially on the magistrate side.
Rich, I have a question. How does that translate to those languages that are not common to everyday court activities?
Sure. So for those languages, then that interpreter for that specific case should be doing the advisement for them. So whether it's our contracted providers or if there's a Polish individual for their staff person, those advisements should be given to that individual. The judge should be saying those to the individual with the interpreter providing that notice to them that way.
Right, so you're not going to have a recording for those.
Not for those. No, for the housing sessions, we did do that for a handful of different languages where it could be played. But for the criminal advisement and for magistrate, given that approximately 90% are Spanish, the thought was that's the best place for resources, just to do it for Spanish and not for all the other languages, because then it begins to tie up the courts with having to play it multiple times.
Sure. Okay. Thanks.
Of course.
Any other questions on this topic? All right, great. Well, thanks, Rich.
Of course.
Let's move on to forms and notices.
Sure. So two things under this. One is regarding the forms. I know we've kind of talked probably off and on for over the past year on putting a icon on our forms to indicate that we provide interpreter services, and then some language regarding that the services are provided at no cost. And I know Viv has been very helpful working with the folks over at Legal Services to come up with the appropriate icon, one that is free to use, that we don't have copyright issues. And I know a couple of the ones that we have since learned have had copyright issues or other issues. So the position now, I think, that I would agree with, and I think Viv would as well, is I think the best one to move this piece forward is the one that we sent out, I think with the materials of kind of the unisex head with the three curved lines as though the individual is speaking. Let me see if I can. See if I could find it quickly and could pull it up.
I have it, Rich. Rich, would you like me to show it?
If you can, that'd be great, Troy. Thank you.
Yes.
Let me know if you can see it.
Yes.
Yes, perfect. So I think this is the recommendation from legal. And Viv, I don't want to speak for legal, so if I'm wrong, please correct me. But this is the one from legal that they think we should be utilizing on our forms, and I'm okay with that. So I guess, Viv, if you want to add anything.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that we took a look at what was used in New Jersey. It was like the three heads talking to each other, and the icon from New York, which had a man and a woman and a speech bubble. And our forms manager was unable to find those icons within the royalty-free library that he has access to. So he searched and he found this, and that's free, and we can use it. We don't have to ask for permission. So that was the recommendation.
That's great.
So if everybody's okay, we'll work with legal on how best to roll it out. But this would be the icon that we would be using on our forms as the visual cue that we provide interpreter services, both spoken and sign. I know the purpose of our committee is not the sign piece, but we're going to wrap it into it. Affairs, admin services, IT, they don't really have that public interaction of people walking into a building where they're going to need that. But obviously CSSD does have that quite a bit. So if we could work together on coming up with that list, that would be helpful to me.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Have you
Hey,
thought
Rich.
about, oh,
Go ahead, Michelle.
Michelle, and then Troy.
sorry about that. Have you thought about using the same iconography so that way there's a connection that people can make visually between the different kinds of notices and signs. So if you're going to be using that other icon with the unisex head, like having that on the flag poster also as well.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah. Allie mentioned that as well on getting that. We'll find a way to make that on this poster as well.
Thanks.
Absolutely. Troy.
Hey, Rich, a couple things. One is when you order them at Colt, when they become the final version, I would love to get a bunch for the DEI department. We have been giving them out when folks have come to different trainings in East Hartford, and so we keep a supply there. It probably will serve the same purpose of Daisy, letting you know what probation officers or contracted provider needs it. But I find that most folks, when they see it, they're excited and want to take it.
Absolutely.
And so that would be great. The second one is, I see that the one that you sent us, what says Census 2000. Is there a reason why it says Census 2000 on the top, and then on the bottom it says 2008? And I think that's when Judicial created it. The reason I brought this up is because a couple people have been asking about some other languages that were not in the I Speak in our posters before. And so a couple of our interns have been looking and trying to gather those other flags that weren't identified. Do you mind if we send you some additional languages or flags that were not identified to see if it's possible, if it can be added to the updated version? It may already be on here already. I just don't know off the top of my head.
No, absolutely not at all. And these will be updated as well. We'll be looking at our stats that what we in Judicial predominantly see, as well as going through the identification brochure, which is also based on the federal stats, based on adding additional languages to that as well, based off of that.
Okay.
So we'll be looking at both our stats and what the I Speak identification guide has, but if you have additional ones, Troy, to send, absolutely, and we can add that into the mix.
Perfect, thank you.
Yes, please. And just to let you know, Troy, the new I Speak card also has indigenous languages of Central America. So there's a lot of languages that have been added to this card.
I think that's part of what my folks are talking about. So thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Great. Anything else on the posters, notices, forums? Great. Well, thank you, everybody. Now, other businesses. Rich, what other business do we have?
I do not have anything. I think we're good. Other than I forgot to mention at the outset, I apologize. I should have said at the beginning, I apologize for having to cancel the last meeting at the last minute. So I do apologize for that. Not really business, but I do apologize for that. I'm glad we were able to get together today in the summer, but I'm glad everybody was able to accommodate that. So thank you.
Oh, sure, of course. Yeah. Alex, anybody else? Any other business?
Just a quick question. The attached form that you had for New Jersey courts, was that just to show the icons, or were you considering this sort of form for the courts?
Just for the icons.
So I'll reserve the comment, just the icons. Thank you.
All right, great. So, all right. So our next meeting is scheduled for September 16th, 2024. Let me check something here. Is everybody still available for that?
I am.
I guess everybody seems to be.
Yes.
Yep.
Great. And what time did we say? 10 o'clock? Is that the time we said?
That one is at 2 o'clock.
Okay, 2 o'clock. All right. All right. Wonderful. Well, if we don't have any other business, I guess we'll see each other on September 16th, right?
Yes.
Good. So I hope
Good.
everybody has a nice summer, or at least what's left of it. It just seems like it's come and gone. I don't know. I speak for myself, but with kids' activities and camps, it's it's gone.
Yes, it is.
But September's around the corner. All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for putting this together and for participating. And I guess we'll just conclude the meeting at this point, and we'll see each other on the 16th.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Have a
guys.
good day. You too.
Take
Bye-bye.
care, everyone. Bye-bye.